Okay, hey everyone, Overeducated here again, and this week's topic is books. So basically I'm going to explain 3 books that I absolutely love, and explain to you why you need to read them and why that it's bad that you haven't already. Now before we start, basically I love horror, gore and books about dystopian futures or horrific apocalypses, just so you know. So my books aren't for everyone, but if you like any of that stuff, read the stuff I'm about to tell you because they're amazing. Okay, first, The Wasp Factory. One of my favourite books of all time. I've read it maybe 7 times now because it's that amazing. And I first read it because my dad told me about it. And the first thing he said to me about it was, I wouldn't let your mum read this because there is a passage in it that she just wouldn't be able to read. It's that terrible. And now I know what that passage is, I understand. It is very, very terrible. But if you can stomach this sort of thing, it's amazing. The general plot is that there's a boy who lives on a small island in a lake sort of thing just off of a town with his dad. And the boy officially doesn't exist because his dad never registered him. And because of that, the boy isn't ever allowed to sort of leave and go into town and stuff, but he does, because he's a teenager, he rebels and stuff. The idea is he's never really been able to connect with other people because he doesn't exist. He's not allowed to go talk to people. So in his lifetime, he's about 17 I think in the book, he sort of created this whole religion for himself because it's just how he lives. He needs something to follow by. And it's a good sort of explanation of religion and stuff. But it's a really horrible book in a good way. Like, his whole religion basically is based on, he creates this machine, a wasp factory if you will. He gets this giant clock face, and he puts traps on all the different numbers on them. And then he traps a wasp, puts it in this machine, and then depending on which death the wasp chooses, that tells him something about the future. It's never really explained, but you just have to understand that is what he believes. And yeah, so there's that, which is quite horrific. I don't really want to spoil the book, but basically he kills more than just wasps because he's, well, I'd say he's sick in the head, but he's not. It's just how he's grown up. That's what he believes. But basically, if you can stomach that sort of thing, it's great. It's a great book, a great story. It says a lot about how we grow up, nature versus nurture, and religion and stuff. But it also has got some really horrible passages in it. Okay, next on the list we have A Clockwork Orange. It's a really teenage boy book. I still maintain it's a great book though. I first watched the film when I was like 12 because I was pretty messed up, and I loved it. It's amazing. No one else really got it, and I just watched it over and over again because I'm like that. And then a few years later my dad gave me the book, and I left it on my shelf for a few years because I'm a teenager and reading's gay and I didn't really want to read it. And then one day I started reading again and I suddenly thought, oh, I've got A Clockwork Orange, I like that film, I'll read the book. Amazing. It's just incredible. The characters are slightly better. There's not as much. It doesn't go on for as long as the film does, so I think the film's slightly too long. But the book is just so brilliant and written all in Nadsat, which for you who don't know, it's a made-up language by the author because he didn't want the film of the book to age, which is a brilliant idea. Because whatever language he used, whether it was from the 20s or the 60s, anything, it would age with time, and by now it wouldn't be that good a book. But with Nadsat, because it doesn't actually exist, once you get into it, it takes a while to get into it, which is why you have to read it more than once. As soon as you get into it, it's amazing, and you just get into the whole thing of it. Absolutely amazing. Also, Alex DeLarge is one of the greatest anti-heroes ever, and you're kind of rooting for him through it, because you kind of understand it. Because the whole premise of the book is it better to be good because you're forced to be good, or evil because you've chosen to be evil? And I kind of agree with the book, which is that it's better to choose to be evil rather than forced to be good. Also, Alex DeLarge is one of my favourite characters to dress up at any fancy dress thing, or just because, for the hell of it really, because I love it. But yeah, also a really horrible book, but really awesome. Great story, great characters, and again it says quite a lot about nature versus nurture and all that. But it's a really dystopian future idea. It's amazing. Although I don't agree with the last chapter of the book, which is why I like the film more. And lastly, American Psycho. Now, again, I saw the film first and thought it was amazing, and then read the book. And the book is so much more graphic. But, and I found this out later, the story is amazing because the guy wrote the book without any of the violence in. And then he went back later and added the violence in just because he didn't want the violence to become the focus of the book. The focus of the book is this character. And the whole idea is that he has bloodlust and he wants to kill things. And he does that at night, but in the day he's an 80s yuppie, he's rich, he wastes all his money and stuff. But then the two sort of lifestyles combine, and it's about how he deals with that, or doesn't deal with that. It sort of begins to descend into madness and just does what he wants, really. And it's incredible and really graphic and violent. But again, if you like that sort of stuff, read it. Again, great story, great characters. It's really weird the way it switches between the two lifestyles, but it's brilliant. So yeah, read that. Watch the film if you don't really like reading or you just like horror. But yes, those are three of my favourite books. But just here I've got a load of other books that if you like that stuff, then read anyway. I'm not going to go into big detail, but Trainspotting, film is amazing. Book is even better once you get into it because it's written in Scottish. That sounds stupid, but because Scottish is English, it's written in the dialect of Scottish. But there's a lot more to the book than there is to the film. But I understand. Lolita. When I first read it, I described it as the greatest book about paedophilia written in the last 100 years. And it is. Again, it's quite difficult to get through because the guy puts French stuff into the sentences for no real reason, but it's really good once you get through it. And if you don't mind books about paedophilia, obviously. Catch-22, it's a classic, it's brilliant, really disjointed and messed up, but again, it's a war book, I suppose. But Catch-22 is... let's see if I can try and explain this properly. Catch-22 in the book is in the war. It's about RAF people, and the idea was they had to do 50 missions, but if you were mad, like insane, you could just go home, but you had to go and tell the doctor that you thought you were mad before he could tell you that you were mad, and then you can go home. But to say that you're mad proves that you don't want to risk your life and therefore you want to go home. Whereas their definition of mad was that you didn't care about your own life. So you could go home if you were mad, but you had to tell them you were mad, and then you couldn't go home. That's Catch-22. It's brilliant. And lastly, Battle Royale. I was going to put this in one of my favourite books, but I don't know. I love the film, and then I've got the book, and then I've got the manga up there somewhere. It's all amazing. Book's probably just below the film, just because I love the film. The whole idea is that in 2000, unemployment's high, no one goes to school, no one works. It's Japanese. And basically anarchy rules. And therefore the government comes up with this idea that every year they choose one random high school class from all the thousands of them they are, take that class to a desert island, give them weapons, and let them kill each other. And it's like, what's the one I'm trying to think of? So that's an example for everyone else saying, we're doing this because you don't respect us and you're ruining the world. We do this, hopefully you'll understand this. And the whole idea is that the winner, therefore, is the best and worst of society at that point. It's brilliant. The entire book is amazing. Again, really gory, really graphic. It's got a lot of scenes in the book that even I go, okay, that's nice. Not like that, obviously, more with emotion and stuff. But anyway, those are my favourite books. I've got shitloads of other books, but they're my favourite ones. If you like me at all, you'll probably enjoy those. Whereas if you're a normal person, you probably won't. But anyway, they're my books. Hope you enjoyed them. And I'll see you guys next week for whatever it is. Let's face it, I never know. I'll be doing a vlog next week, whatever. See you then.